Toji Fushiguro is an infamously bad dad in Jujutsu Kaisen. Not only did he abandon his son, he was planning on selling him to the Zenin clan. Terrible parenting. But what if he decided to keep Megumi? What if he decided to actually raise his son like a good father? This question has been on my mind for a while, so I want to go over how Toji being in Megumi's life would impact a number of characters and the story itself. To make sense of how Toji would affect things, we need to think about how being a father would affect Toji. The person we know Toji as and the person Toji would be if he raised Megumi would not be the same person. Raising a kid, from what I've heard, is one of the most intense ways to form a bond with someone. This makes a lot of sense when you think about it. Raising a kid right means always being there for them when they need you and making sure they turn out alright. It's a lot of responsibility, and the Toji we know probably wouldn't be too great at it if we're being honest. I mean, he forgot the name of his own kid. That's like a cardinal sin. If I'm being honest, I don't think Toji would be an outright bad parent, but I definitely don't think he would be a good one either. He would be somewhat distant, wanting Megumi to figure out his own problems and be responsible for himself, but I don't think he would be completely absent. He would be there to support Megumi if the child really needed it, and I think getting closer to the kid would soften Toji up a decent amount. That's not to say that he would become like weak or bad at fighting, I mean more emotionally, as he would have something to care about besides himself. If anything, I think raising Megumi would encourage Toji to become an even better fighter, as he now has the responsibility to protect his child in the world of Jujutsu. I can definitely see Toji and Megumi getting along pretty well once Megumi gets out of childhood and into the teenage years that we see him in. He's not too different from his father in his demeanor, so I think they could have the type of father-son relationship that blossoms as Megumi matures. And that also goes for as he matures as a sorcerer too. See, Megumi being the holder of the 10 Shadows technique would put Toji in a very interesting place in the world of Jujutsu. It would essentially make him and Megumi the most valuable family in the Zenin clan, and thus would make them highly influential in the world of Jujutsu if they wanted to be. To be honest though, I can still see Toji leaving the Zenin clan with Megumi. In fact, I think it would be his preferred way to raise the boy. We all know that the Zenin clan will almost always put politics over people, and even Toji saw that, which is why he wanted Gojo to raise Megumi over the clan. But I think he might try to maneuver his way into some relation with them, as they do hold the guide to the 10 Shadows technique, and without it, Megumi might struggle to learn his technique. Even if Toji does leave the clan without a lot of information on the 10 Shadows, it's not like Megumi is screwed. He still starts with divine dogs, and the other Shikigami are based on Japanese shadow puppets, so we could probably figure out some of them as well. But even if not, he would still learn the technique when he eventually got to Jujutsu Tech Tokyo. And there is one thing that Megumi would undoubtedly be better at as a result of living with Toji: hand-to-hand combat. Tell me training with this monster of a man wouldn't turn Megumi into a hand-to-hand god. Like, this dude threw hands with special grade curse spirits like it was nothing. Even if it would be impossible for Megumi to reach Toji's level, he would 100% gain a better base of physical strength than he had in the show. In fact, these two could potentially feed off each other to become much stronger than they are. Toji trains Megumi physically, which would allow him to be more powerful Shikigami, which would then allow him to summon said Shikigami for Toji to train against, which would make him stronger, and then the newly stronger Toji could train Megumi to make him even stronger, and so on and so forth. Wow, that was a mouthful. There would of course be a limit to this eventually. Like, I doubt Toji could get to the strength to fistfight Mahoraga, but maybe something like Ajito would be somewhat attainable for him. Toji being more involved in the world of Jujutsu could also be good for Maki, as he could potentially act as a resource for her to better understand her heavenly restriction. Overall though, I think Toji would try to stay out of the world of Jujutsu as much as possible in relation to everyone except Megumi. Like, if Megumi isn't involved, he wouldn't be either, and even then, 90% of the time that Megumi would be involved, he still would not be present. Their life and relationship together would almost be completely separate from Jujutsu society, as Toji has seen how terrible it can be to people, and he has no reason to trust anyone within it to treat him or his son correctly. Plus, it's just easier to raise a kid without them having to worry about filling some role or being a figurehead in some community, you know? Let the kid play with his dog or whatever. As for his direct impact on the story, I feel like it would be quite minimal. As we just stated, Toji would probably try to stay out of the world of Jujutsu in general, but even if he didn't, it's not like parents play a big part in the real Jujutsu Kaisen anyway. Like, whose parents are actually in the series? Toji, ironically, is one of the more present. Maki has her parents for a few chapters. I think Yuji's parents make literally 3 panels of appearance. They all just play super unimportant roles because the focus for the most part is on the students. This leads me to believe that most of the times we would see Toji would be in flashbacks with just him and Megumi, and never in the main actual story. He would have literally no role in the first third of the story up through Shibuya, as not only is he too powerful to be involved there, but the focus is pretty much entirely on the students, so it just wouldn't make sense. Even including him in Shibuya, I think would be unlikely, as his presence for the protagonists would lead to their advantage being a bit too heavy. I mean, we all saw what he did to Dagon. The dude is a monster compared to 90% of the cast, so while he might not be as strong as someone like Jogo, Mahito, or Sukuna, he would still be able to boost the power levels of the protagonists to the point that they might actually be able to rescue Gojo, which completely goes against the whole point of the arc. The only reason I could see him maybe being included in this alternate reality is to kill him off. Like maybe he has a similar death to Nanami, or maybe he gets wrapped up with 15-finger Sukuna, or maybe he has to sacrifice himself to save Megumi, something like that, you know? I also don't think he would take the hidden inventories contract, as raising a kid would make him more risk averse, which is why I don't think he would die when Megumi was like 8 or whatever. Really, I think his biggest contribution to the story would be eventually meeting Yuki and aiding in her research about moving away from cursed energy, as that was something she never got to do in the original story. I'd love to hear how you think Toji would fit into the actual story of Jujutsu Kaisen, so let me know in the comments down below. For now though, let's move on to how this would affect Megumi. Megumi would obviously be immensely changed with Toji in his life. Having a present father figure has been attributed to being one of the best ways for a kid to grow up with a strong mentality and to become a functioning member of society. That's not to say it's impossible without a father or with a bad father figure, it's just not as likely. And we kind of see that with current Megumi. The dude has no self-confidence and sometimes seemingly very little will to live in general. It feels like he's just a sorcerer because he feels he should be one and for no other reason. He also clings to what little family he has left, as we see with Sumiki. So I think having a father would change who Megumi is at his very core. Having someone who would have his back in the way Toji would could fix Megumi's self-confidence issues in a way that no one else really can. Sure, it would be in the form of tough love, no doubt about that, but even some tough love is better than the amount of love he actually got growing up, which was almost zero. This self-confidence issue is one of the biggest issues plaguing Megumi, if not the biggest one outright, so fixing it would immediately make him a much better sorcerer in pretty much every way. As we already established, having Toji to train with would also likely make Megumi a monster of physical combat, which is really useful for a Shikigami user. We've seen him rely on a multitude of weapons throughout the majority of the series, so becoming a master at using them early would prove extremely useful to the student. But it's not all good news for Megumi. As we already established, if Toji raises Megumi outside the Zenin clan, he might lose access to the historical knowledge on his 10 Shadows technique. Now, I know what you may be thinking. When he was raised by Gojo, he still had the information, so why wouldn't he have it now? Well, to put it bluntly, that was Gojo, the most important figure in the world of Jujutsu, bar none. He definitely had political pull and was likely better at manipulating and dealing with the higher ups than Toji would be. Even if not, he still bought Megumi from the clan, so it makes sense that he would gain access to the historical documents either way. But Toji likely wouldn't be able to attain these resources if he left the clan, making Megumi's time learning this technique significantly harder. But I don't think Megumi would be 100% up the creek. Basically, what I think would happen is Megumi would have a harder time mastering the Shikigamis, but the ones he does master, he would become extremely proficient at. So similar to someone like Zenitsu, who only mastered one aspect of his breathing technique, but he really mastered it. This would mean fully understanding a technique's capabilities and also improving on its interpretation a lot as well. As a result, I think he would enter Jujutsu High School with only 2 or 3 Shikigami rather than the 5 we saw him with. Once he goes to Jujutsu High though, he would gain those resources he didn't have before, and as a result, he would probably have an easier time taming the other Shikigami with the stronger ones he's already tamed. This would lead to him getting ahead of where we see him in the Culling games, but before that, he would probably stay on track with what we see. While we're on the subject, we might as well talk about what kind of effects this would have on the series. And to be honest, I think it could affect the entire premise of the show. See, in the very first episode, part of why Yuji swallows Sukuna's finger is because Megumi is too weak to beat the cursed spirit on his own. But with stronger dogs and a much stronger base of physical combat, I think this could go down completely differently. Considering Gojo appeared like 5 seconds after Yuji ate the finger, Megumi would only have to hold out against the cursed spirit for a little bit, which he should be able to do with his improved physical strength. This means that Kenjaku's whole plan could have been derailed, which is pretty crazy to think about. In fact, a lot of the events early into the story could have gone completely differently with a stronger Megumi, to the point that it's possible Yuji might have not even died when he did. If Megumi had been better with divine dogs, he might have been able to maneuver the white dog so it never got crushed, meaning they could have been made aware of the finger bearer and escaped without Sukuna manifesting. These kinds of changes are pertinent throughout the entirety of Jujutsu Kaisen if we improve Megumi, but instead of going through every one in every arc, because that would take forever, I want to focus on just a few key moments that would change things immensely. One aspect that I think could definitely go better is his development of his domain. By focusing more on his foundational understanding of the shadows, Megumi would likely be able to develop a domain that is even better than the Chimera Shadow Garden we know. This is because without a strong method to learn the Shikigami of the 10 shadows, Megumi would likely turn to mastering the shadows themselves as well as a few Shikigami he stumbles upon. This means his mastery of the liquid would likely be higher in this alternative universe. How would this change his domain? Well, it's kind of hard to tell, to be honest. If I had to guess, I don't think he would develop it earlier, as the concept of a domain expansion is not something Toji could teach, so he would be exposed to it like the rest of the students. His mastery of the shadows means that he could focus less on flooding an area and more on the barrier needed to establish a sure hit. What would this sure hit be? Well, I think it's kind of obvious. A Gasha Dekoru. I think it's pretty highly hinted at this being the spine in the background of Megumi's domain, and it develops as his domain develops, so it makes sense to make it a domain-specific Shikigami. According to Japanese mythology, the Gasha Dekoru hunts humans to eat them and is indestructible. This leads me to believe the guaranteed hit would be two-part. The first is where the Skelly grabs the opponent and then eats them. This might not outright kill the opponent though, depending on how strong they are compared to Megumi. What would be interesting is if this monster stayed alive in other people's domains. So like if Megumi opens his domain and then someone else counters with a stronger domain, the Gasha Dekoru stays because it is indestructible. This probably isn't possible due to the rules of cursed energy, but hey, those have been broken plenty of times before. The one aspect of this series that would undoubtedly be changed the most if Toji was more involved in Megumi's life would be Megumi's relationship with Sumiki. In the original series, Sumiki is pretty much the only family Megumi has, and as such, he is extremely attached to her. But that's not the case in this alternate reality thanks to Toji. While I do think the step-siblings would still have some relation, it would be much less developed, and Megumi would be much less attached to Sumiki overall. This would completely change Megumi's direction in the show, as her getting cursed would be much less of a big deal to him. That's not to say he wouldn't care at all, but I think his priorities for the Culling Games would change, and he wouldn't be nearly as blinded by his concern for Sumiki as he was in the original series. This wouldn't affect him for the vast majority of the events that take place, except one moment. The rescue of Sumiki. That's right, the moment that set up Sukuna's return would not have happened if Megumi had had a better father figure, in my opinion. There are two reasons I believe this. First of all, as a result of being less close with Sumiki, he would have less emotional attachment to her getting overwritten, and he would be less attached to the idea of saving her as well. Second, because Megumi would have more self-confidence in this alternative universe, he would not get nearly as emotionally traumatized as he did by the Yozuru reveal, which in turn means Sukuna would not be able to take over his body. On top of this, being physically stronger means he would be able to better resist Sukuna's attempts at forcing a finger down his throat, and having a better base of the 10 Shadows technique means he wouldn't have to rely on summoning Maharaga like he did, or rather like he tried to. Now, this isn't to say that I think Megumi would be able to beat 15-finger Sukuna in this new world, more that he would be able to stay calm enough to avoid being taken advantage of until Enchain ends. Whether this is by running away with Nue or causing chaos with Rapid Escape doesn't really matter. Remember, the Binding Vow prevents Sukuna from hurting people at any point, except Hana for some reason, but that's not important now. Megumi not getting Sukuna'd would change the entire rest of the current manga in ways that I don't really understand. It would mean Gojo could be unsealed without needing to prepare to fight the strongest sorcerer of all time, meaning he could just kill Kenjaku here, preventing the merger from ever becoming a threat. Sukuna never manifesting means Gojo never dying, Kashimo never dying, Higuruma never dying. Like, it completely changes the past 50 chapters, and I can't even conceptualize what the story would look like right now if Megumi was still Megumi. I guess maybe they'd be looking for the last 5 fingers of Sukuna so Yuji can be executed, or there would be some sort of uprising against traditional Jujutsu society led by Gojo and his students after he was exiled. Something like that, maybe? It's a fascinating premise to think about, that much is for sure, but I think it's a little bit too far outside the scope of this video. If you want me to talk about the possibilities of current Jujutsu Kaisen being different, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe it'll become a video. For now though, be sure to make sure you're subscribed. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in a few days for our next video. Bye!